Um, all right, it is 6 o'clock. And since we have a quorum, we can go ahead and call the meeting to order. Not sure if everybody has the agenda in front of them, but are there any requests to make any changes or additions?
The only agenda I've seen is the executive session. Is there another exec agenda?
Yes, the full board agenda should have been, was distributed by Amy Jewell about a week ago.
Okay.
So you would have received an email from Amy with the packet, the full packet.
Perhaps you can, maybe Amy can resend that to John.
Well, let me go first.
I'm sending now.
Okay. Thank you. Before we just kind of get started, one thing that I've been thinking about with now that we're only 6+ months into this, is that to the extent that your internet connection can handle it, we do always appreciate if you can have your video on. I know there are other circumstances that may make it so that that's not possible, but it does help with the community feel. And then also just, I think there's a lot of reliance on nonverbal language of like head nodding. And so to the extent that you can and feel comfortable and don't have other things going on that are distractions, we certainly welcome that. So thank you. John, did you have your hand up for something?
Not me.
Okay. All right. Do we have any members of the public on the call?
We do.
Is there anybody who would like to comment at this time?
No one has raised their hand to comment, so we're good.
Okay. I might need to turn my volume up so I can hear you. All right. So the consent agenda, are there any requests to remove items for discussion? All right. Hearing none. We will approve that. The next item on the agenda is the preliminary budget. Sarah, if you'd like to.
Yep, this is a requirement of our charter to have the board, basically the board proposes a preliminary budget and essentially what it's designed to do is to alert our member towns to any assessments that may be coming in the next year. So we need to get this out per charter. We're a little bit late. It's supposed to be out by December 1. NOLA has prepared a memo that she can walk through with you. But this is certainly not the final budget. This is what we anticipate starting with going into the budget season. This is essentially a requirement of the charter. So go ahead, Nola.
So this is typically based on the inflation rate, which you can see from the other information is 1.2%. So it's a pretty basic calculation across the board. We're just saying, okay, everything is going to be 1.2% more. And I averaged that, or I'm sorry, I took the higher value of whichever was either in the actuals or in the budget, just to be sure that we were covering all of our bases within this. But it looks like we're covered. We still have plenty of money in the stabilization reserve. And like Sarah said, this isn't our current or what our budget will be at the end of this fiscal year. Does anybody
I move we accept the proposed budget. I guess, do you call it an interim budget or
so
appropriate?
Yes, yeah, we have there's a proposed motion on the memo, but that's a very good question, Leslie, to raise. So one thing that I want the newer members to know is that this is something that Nola and I have talked about. I also discussed it with our not our most recent finance director, but the one previous, where I think we need to take a look at the requirements in the charter. It does require the board to present a proposed budget. We are offering a preliminary estimate of the budget, but when really, in reality, the charter wants us to have the next year's budget done by December 1. That has always been a struggle for the 25 years we've been plus in existence. Yet it is a requirement. And again, mainly it is so that our member communities can make any adjustments that they need to do for their own budgets ahead of town meeting day. So we are looking at some budgeting processes and budgeting software that we feel may be able to allow us to actually meet the requirements of the charter, not necessarily for next fiscal year, but for the year after. So that if we implement the software, we'll be able to get that information in and then in use for fiscal 23. So Leslie, yes, your question is appropriate to ask, because what the charter says is proposed. What we are doing here is preliminary. So this is, again, our first snapshot based on rate of inflation, CPI, but it is not exactly what we, I think, are meant to do for the charter. The other option is to change the charter, and that is not an easy doing. So the more that we can adapt our own processes to the existing charter language, I think that should be our goal. So there is a proposed motion, and it says, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners acknowledges the receipt of a preliminary budget to be further developed through the normal budget process. And I would add that for fiscal year 2022.
So moved.
Essex seconds. The other item that is important to know is that we don't plan on dunning the towns for any money out of their budgets, and that's what they need to know for their March budget. So that's the reason for us to have this bottom line number that we know we're going to be able to make using our own incomes.
Correct. So that is the intent, that we're not proposing that we will be issuing any assessments to any member town in fiscal 22.
We haven't had the executive session yet.
Well, true, but we are confident we will not need to do that, even with that. And we'll tell you why in the executive session.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nola.
And the next item is personnel staffing.
Yes, so I would like to bring Amy and Josh Tyler into this conversation. I believe, preview this for the board last month to let you know that we were planning to bring this to you this month. And this is an area where we feel particularly vulnerable, and that is in our maintenance staff, and particularly our drivers. So I would like, actually, Josh, if you could kind of walk through some of the highlights of the memo, and then Amy can discuss any of the financial justifications that are included if there are any questions there. So Josh.
All right. Can everybody hear me? Great. So historically, the maintenance and roll-off department had 5 employees working for them. We had 4 kind of maintenance and roll-off workers separated between the maintenance and the roll-off programs. And then we had a supervisor. After the departure of our most recent supervisor, it kind of was apparent that it made more sense to kind of move that supervisory role into a project manager's position, because it kind of, that guidance and oversight was more appropriate to that position, where the people who were doing the direct service, that supervisory role didn't really fit. And that was kind of an oversight piece on our part that we wanted to have a little more control. So due to COVID budgeting, we dropped that 5th position. We were gonna keep it in for potentially hiring a 5th, in the event we needed a 5th person down there. But we dropped it now under our existing conditions of people's schedules with schools closing at a whim, and just people needing to take vacations and just our increase in managing our own internal materials. It makes sense that we kind of add that 5th position back. We had planned on adding it back in FY22 anyway, but just under our current situations, it makes more sense to have a more robust department, and that's doing that is adding that 5th position in. When Sarah says vulnerable, we only have 4 drivers right now. All of our maintenance and roll-off positions have a CDL driver's license, so that means they can manage, our MSW, our recycling, our metal, things that they would need to haul on a large scale. In the event that we lose one of our people to COVID, it gets really tight really quick. We can get by with 3. If we drop down to 2, it's pretty difficult to manage all of our facility needs, and that would drive us to start looking at either reducing services at our facilities or reducing the actual number of facilities that are open. So we've kind of identified that this 5th position is necessary, and it kind of gives us that flexibility in the event that one of our staff down at maintenance roll off, happens to get COVID. We don't have to go straight to looking at what service we can and can't provide, or looking at what facility we need to close. So that's kind of a part of it, and just the overall, we're running thin down there as it is. We're keeping up with our maintenance requirements, but a lot of times our maintenance crew is pulled to do roll-off driving. So that's kind of the basis of this request.
And again, to Josh's point, we've restructured the department so that this is truly, before we had a working supervisor, but we really needed a full-time working worker. So they will be kind of splitting time between also some maintenance duties, so some mechanic work, and that will also, having another driver will free up the folks that we have on the team who are really good mechanics to do more of that work instead of doing the driving. So, we're looking to play to the existing skills on the team, and, bring in, again, that much needed security for the driver's position. So Amy did look at the wage benefit and chart that we have in the fiscal 21 budget. And we were really thrilled that the health insurance increase only came in just over 1%. I think it was 1.5%, Amy. And instead of what we had budgeted, which was around 10%. So right there's significant savings that we won't have to shell out in January. So, Iman, if you wanted to fill in any additional info on the funding of the position.
Sure. So when we create the budget and we start that in January, typically with the finance committee, we go through our wages and benefits. So all of the staffing and all of the benefits are laid out there. And then when it became apparent that we need another roll-off truck driver, maintenance operator position, we looked at that spreadsheet, and it was great that we already had the MVP information in there as well. We also had budgeted for a project manager position July 1 and just hired that position. So there was a bit of savings available there. And then we've also had a couple of folks who have been out on leave, and so their salary has decreased. So looking at projecting from now through June, we knew that we had about $165,000 under budget within the wage band. So we knew we could hire for this position. If it was approved by the board, we'd have money there. And that, of course, assumes that there aren't any drastic changes in benefits, that we that we don't have single folks who go to family plans, given our structure, but that typically has not changed, and open enrollment just happened. We didn't have any major changes, so we're pretty comfortable that that number is accurate.
And this is an entry-level position. This is just straight up maintenance and roll off. It's not mechanic. It's just to share the load.
Literally.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Any questions from the commissioners?
Bryn, I have a couple of questions. It seems to me the presentation indicates that there's enough savings in the current year's budget to cover the position, but two questions. Is there an estimate for the cost of the new position through the balance of this current fiscal year? And the second question would be, what have you identified any savings from contracted services? Because that's identified in this justification memo. So I think both of those dollar figures would be helpful to know.
I can help you with that. All in at an entry level position with benefits is roughly $60,000 to $70,000. We did a quick look on WageBen to see what that was. The market's a little tight right now, but that's kind of our expectation of where we're going to land. The savings we'll see with this extra person is we've got a couple really good mechanics right now, but if they have to be on the road, then some of the equipment that we have to send out to a shop to get, some routine maintenance done, or some things that we can do potentially in-house. So there's that savings there. And on that same vein, when we send stuff to a shop, say a loader or even a roll-off truck or a service truck, we have to wait for the shop to get to it. So it can sit there up to a week, which could potentially limit some of our maintenance needs. So there will be some savings in there. It also allows us to, say, looking forward, potentially internally haul more of our own materials, because we do contract some of those out right now. And we're taking a look at a few of them, particularly organics. It's looking like we're going to spend about $100,000 this year managing organics internally. It's managing organics through a third-party vendor. And with this fifth position, it gives us the flexibility to potentially manage that ourselves. So that'll be a significant savings. It'll be a shift in operations, and it will carry savings. We have to look at the capital expense to do that. But over a 5-10 year period, it's a significant savings.
And Josh, that's
is that what you're looking for?
That's 60 to 70,000 is annual salary.
Annual, correct.
Thank you for clarifying. Yep.
Other questions? All right, does anyone?
And Bryn, there is a resolution that I can read.
Sure.
Be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners authorizes the Executive Director to hire for the position of maintenance operator, roll-off truck driver.
I'll move that. Mr. John from Milton.
Friendly amendment. I think it should say entry-level position.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Are there any issues with that, Sarah?
No.
Do I hear a second?
Second, Logan Richmond.
Any further discussion?
I'm just checking. Is this required, or is this more of a courtesy notification?
It's technically a change to the budget because we did not include the position in the budget, even at a zero, that we wanted to, I felt that we needed to get the permission of the board to alter the budget.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes.
Great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next, the SWIP.
So that is Josh Esty. So Josh can pop on. There he is.
Hi all. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Apologies for looking like I'm working by candlelight. I'm not. I'm pulled up in a spare bedroom. So as the memo states, Casella reached out to interested parties at the end of November and requested that the new B transfer station be re-included in our SWIP. If folks remember, or those who were on the board, they came to us at the end of last year and requested, based on an amendment they were sending to ANR, to re-include their transfer station because they were adding their depackager operations. So this second amendment to their facility management plan amends that further to reflect a change in operations for their DPAC operations. They have added some fixed on-site tank storage to their transfer station. Those are up already. And they're also looking to amend the total volume of organics that they're actually moving through the transfer station. So in looking at the red line strikeout version of their facility management plan, those were the two big items. I did see, Bryn, you emailed me that I hadn't attached the red line strikeout version of the facility management plan. I'd be happy to share that if anybody were interested. It's a number of pages long, so it would take a little bit to scroll through, but I could provide the highlights unless you want me to just provide it after the meeting. One point I'd like to make, this is sort of the first step, as a reminder, for A&R to start the amendment process. So they need to check the box that the district that the facility is in has approved them in their SWIP before they will go through the amendment process. I spoke with Dennis Feckert with A&R, who indicated to me that it will be a major amendment. And all that really means is that they lengthen the period of open comment period to about 30 days. So this is their red line strikeout of their facility management plan is something that we can and potentially will comment on. The approval by the board here tonight doesn't disallow us of having that opportunity. So we'll be meeting as a staff probably in the next week or so to just discuss the changes that they're proposing and talk about whether or not we'd like to comment on them or not.
Can I ask a question?
Go for it.
Yes. If I understand what we're doing correctly, it's really not our facility, but it's their facility. We have to approve it because we're kind of like governing body over with. Is there any Act 250 implication here? It sounds like they're going to be changing their capacity. And when they applied, I'm sure Act 250 had a limit of what they were doing. If this changes that, do they need to, or do we need to make sure Act 250 is covered?
That's a good question. As part of it, we will follow up and make sure that they will, because if you read our facility inclusion plan, it talks about making sure that they are following all state and local permits. So that will be part of our due diligence. We generally like to go to someone in the host town of the facility to make sure that they know about the plan. And something like this with a major amendment, Casella will be, they'll have to make those parties aware. So we just double check with them. Act 250 will likely get involved, but that's generally not something that we heavily get involved in. I see that Mike Casella is on the phone. I'm wondering if he is interested in responding to that question regarding Act 250. I'll just give Mike a second here if he does want to.
Yeah, we're working through it with the state and all the permits that we need and are required.
Thanks. And generally, it's a conversation between us and the facility owners too, just to they can answer any questions or concerns that we have on the permit side of things. But given that they did receive approval for managing an increased amount of organics through the facility at the end of last year, I don't anticipate there being many issues for them on these changes that they're proposing on this round.
Great, thank you.
Other questions? All right, Sarah, I see there's a motion.
There is, yep. The motion is the Chittenden Solid Waste District's Board of Commissioners hereby resolves that the all-cycle transfer station on Avenue B in Williston, Vermont, be included in the district's solid waste implementation plan to incorporate their amended operations and facility food waste capacity as detailed in the solid waste certification application dated November 24, 2020, contingent upon All Cycle Waste, Inc. obtaining and maintaining compliance with all necessary local, state, and federal permits.
Second.
I'll make that motion if nobody else wants to.
I'll second that from Richmond.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you all. And I will send out the red line strikeout. I anticipate it to be up on the ENB in the next couple of days. So that'll be kind of the official notice to go ahead. So I will share that for sure.
Great, and that's the environmental notice bulletin, correct?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah, we have the loader bid results next.
Yes, we do. And that's back to Josh Tyler.
Back on. Just bring it up. So we have 2 loaders that were up for purchasing this year that were part of our capital budget that was approved. One for the MRF, and that's contractually required that we replace it this fiscal year based on a prior agreed upon contract. And one of our loaders at the compost facility, which was also kind of brought to the board in February, saying we had a significant rolling stock shift with our new operations as we developed that. We went out to bid for 2 large loaders, full size, I guess I can call them loaders. When we got our bids back, each loader was specific to each use. So compost had guarding in different places, while the MRF loader had guarding in different places. The compost loader has been presented in this memorandum. The MRF loader, we actually pulled from requesting a purchase because there was concern that the larger loader frame wouldn't fit into a couple of our key bunkers. It was brought up by 2 of the vendors that were bidding. So we looked at it because the MRF has specific tires which are wider than your standard or normal, kind of loader tires that are typically outdoors. And because of that, we decided to take another look at the size of the loader, and we're going to rebid that and bring that back to you in January. Also, the larger size loader was above what we had budgeted in our capital. We're making a jump to a bigger loader at the MRF just because they could use more horsepower, because recycling's, I think it's getting any heavier. It's just we have a pretty full tip floor at all times, and pushing and managing that is important. We will get a larger one, just not make that full jump to the largest size we could get. So we'll be back to you in January. But for the MRF loader, or for the organics loader, we have presented the bid results. We have our grading system, and we narrowed in on Nortrax, which is a John Deere loader. And the key components were, they can get us the loader in 60 days. Their quality of service has been very strong for us. The Beauregard equipment, which is a case, and the CRW Woods equipment, which is a Volvo, that was the kind of the determining factor in our grading system that put them below wanting to purchase the John Deere. And we've had really poor experience with the Volvo dealer in their service department. The machines are good, the service is not. And we've had an excavator in and out, and a mini loader that we bought through them in and out, and it has been a nightmare. It has not been, the equipment's come back not fixed. It's sat in there for long periods of time without any answers. So that's why we kind of decided not to go with the Volvo. And same with the case. Beauregard equipment doesn't carry a lot of equipment on the shelf. Its facility is farther away than the John Deere facility. And so because this bid came in under our budgeted amount, we wanted to stick with the John Deere. So that's why, that's the distinction there. And then the CAT came in higher than we budgeted. So that's our logic behind this. Another thing we're doing with this is that we've kind of mixed and matched different loaders through the years at our compost facility. And one of the more frustrating things is we use different buckets for each machine, but there are buckets specific to each machine. So we can't interchange our larger or smaller buckets for whatever it is we're doing at this point. So a portion of this, because we budgeted $270,000 $35,000 was to purchase buckets that would be interchangeable between the two pieces of equipment, so that'll save us operational time and money for that matter, that we don't have to stop one thing with one loader and drive it somewhere else to use a bucket for that specific purpose. So that was important to us to do. That's why this is a little more expensive than we typically have in for a loader. That's our logic.
Did you go with a quick attach system on each loader?
Yeah, it's a JRB, I think 418, which is the one we have. We just bought a loader, 644 in 2018, I think. So both those attachments will be the same. So we can move between a 7-yard bucket, 4 1/4, and I think a 3-yarder, which just basically depends on where you're at in the yard and if you need to fill the screener, if you need to fill a truck, or if you need to operate on our working pad.
Do you have forks too that go on that, or?
Yep, came with forks.
Is there much difference in how each piece of equipment, the controls the same? How much different is there? Is there training difference?
They're relatively the same. So when we purchased the loader I was talking about in 2018, we actually requested anybody who wanted to be taken seriously in the bid. They brought a machine on our site and we tested it there. So we actually demoed the Cat, the Case, and the Volvo in 2018, and they were all decent. The operators liked some over others, but there wasn't a significant difference in all of them. They all kind of have the same format.
Nothing runs like a deer.
You getting commission on this?
No, I'm a Volvo guy. That's why I was surprised when he was saying all that. I had, we have both down at. We just bought a brand new Case, and we have a 2-year-old Volvo.
And full disclosure, I'm pretty sure the Murph loader is going to be probably a Case, just because as you can see, the Case is the least expensive piece of equipment. And for the Murph loader, I think I might, I'm gonna go with somebody who we haven't truly tried and tested yet.
But I have heard, things with Case as far as their dealer support and maintenance and availability of parts that, I took that into consideration as well.
Yep. Yeah, and we'll do the same thing, when those
they run those loaders hard out there at the Murph. I've been there to dump recycling trucks, and you want a machine that's gonna last, your 7-year rotation. And I agree with you. Recycling is it's not getting heavier. There's just more of it. I was doing some calculations, and our monthly totals have gone up 40 ton since COVID started.
Everybody's home and recycling at home
per month.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, that's impressive.
Oh.
Yeah, these are pretty heavy production uses, so we can't really afford downtime for either of them. That's an important thing for us.
Are there questions from commissioners? Josh, I have a couple questions. Is there a warranty included in this in the expense summary here?
Yeah, it's a standard warranty. I couldn't rattle off the numbers off of the bat. We always ask for an extended warranty and see what it costs and what it looks like. And it didn't seem like it was worth getting the extended warranty. And we also have, our internal maintenance program, will keep up on a lot of the stuff as well.
And was there any sense for I don't know, I'm just thinking about estimated operating expenses, fuel, maintenance, et cetera.
They're all about the same category. They're all tier 4, EPA standard diesel engine. One of the things that I am excited about, which, won't happen now, is that a lot of these guys are looking at maybe a hybrid option. And I think the hybrid options are coming out in the next year or two. So hopefully in our next round, our next cycle, I would love, especially at our compost facility, because we've got such a large roof area, to have a charging station run off of solar and to charge a hybrid loader. I think that would be fantastic. But talking with multiple vendors, we're not quite there yet. But as soon as somebody cracks that nut, that's the next thing up.
All right. I don't have any other questions. Sarah, unless there's any further discussion, Sarah, do you want to read the motion?
Yep. Be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners authorizes the Executive Director to enter into a contractual agreement for the purchase of John Deere 644L front-end loader from Nortrax Equipment from Williston, Vermont. And that should be for an amount not to exceed $255,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I think we got a lot of questions in there. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion passes. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So at this time, we've gotten through the bulk of the agenda. We're now ready to move into the executive session. Sarah or Amy, if you'd be willing to read the language, that would be wonderful.
Yep. Amy, if you have that.
I do. I move that the Board of Commissioners of the Chittenden Solid Waste District go into executive session to discuss ongoing and pending litigation where premature general public knowledge would clearly place the district, its member municipalities, and other public bodies or persons involved at a substantial disadvantage, and to permit staff in the Solid Waste District attorneys to be present for this session.
I hear motion.
So moved.
I'll move that.
All right.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, we'll see you in executive session.
You and not the Johns. Thank you.
Right. Just let me know when we got everybody.
We definitely have a quorum.
All right. All right. Entertain a motion to leave executive session.
So moved.
Second,
All in
Burlington.
favor? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? All right. We now have left the executive session. Any other items for discussion this evening? All right, hearing none. I just want to, before we go through the motions to adjourn, just say thank you all for, sticking with us these last 8 months through the virtual meetings and adapting to multiple platforms and sticking in there, and just hope you all have safe and happy holidays, and we'll see you in the new year. So at this point, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Essex, so
Oh, wait.
moved.
I've gotten a couple hands. Logan?
No, Tim. I'm just Tim.
All right.
Just a follow-up question on Sarah's memo about schedule. Did that require any action?
No action needed. It was just a notification,
Thank you.
but thanks. So Abby, question.
I just wanted to thank Sarah for that long explanation, and I really appreciated her respect for the staff of CSWD.
Yes. Cheers. Thank you, Abby.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the staff. Thank you,
Do we
Sarah.
have a second on that? I heard Alan as a first.
Second.
Second, well,
Do we need to acknowledge that there was no action taken as a result of executive session?
We do not,
Okay.
but great question. So we have a motion. We've got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
happy holidays.
Any
Happy
abstain?
holidays all.
Enjoy.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Take care.
Everybody.